I stood in the doorway of what used to be my bedroom, the hospital bracelet still wrapped around my wrist. The room looked nothing like before. The green walls I had carefully painted were now hidden beneath bright pink wallpaper. My photos were gone, replaced by framed pictures of my sister-in-law Amanda. Even my bed, my expensive memory foam mattress, was buried under a pile of glittery pillows and unicorn toys. "This is her room now," my mother-in-law Margaret announced with a smirk, standing behind Amanda, her hands resting possessively on her shoulders as if she had just won a prize. We thought it was time for some changes. I stood still, careful not to strain my stomach, which was still healing from surgery. I had just spent a week in the hospital after an emergency operation, and coming home to this was a shock. Then again, maybe I should have seen it coming. "Interesting timing," I said evenly, though my mind was racing. This wasn't just about a room. Margaret had been trying to push me out of this house for years. Amanda twirled in my grandmother's antique vanity chair, a smug smile on her face. "Mom thought this would be perfect for me while I look for a job in the city," she said sweetly. "It's so much better than that tiny guest room." I caught Margaret watching me in the mirror, waiting for my reaction. She had never liked me. In her eyes, I was never good enough for her son Mike. I didn't come from money, and no matter how hard I worked, she never respected me. "And where are my things?" I asked, already suspecting the answer. "Oh, we moved them to the basement," Margaret said dismissively. "Most of it was old anyway. Amanda needs space." I nodded slowly, forcing myself to stay calm. "And Michael? What does he think about this?" Amanda hesitated, but Margaret answered before she could. "Michael understands that family helps each other. Amanda is going through a difficult time." By difficult time, she meant Amanda had cheated on her fiancé and been kicked out of her apartment. But, as always, Margaret made excuses for her daughter. I took a step further into the room, feeling a dull ache in my healing stitches. "Well, this is unexpected," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "But timing is everything." Margaret's eyes narrowed slightly. "What do you mean by that?" I gave her a slow, unreadable smile. "Oh, nothing. Just something to think about." Then I turned to leave but paused at the door. "Oh, Amanda," I added over my shoulder, "be careful with that vanity. The left drawer sticks sometimes." As I walked downstairs, I could hear them whispering behind me. They thought they had one, that I would just accept this and move on. But they had no idea what was coming. I settled into my home office, the one room they hadn't dared to touch. My laptop was right where I had left it. Good. This space held all my important documents, and I had been preparing for something like this for months. Opening my email, I checked the messages. 3 days, that's all I needed. This plan had been in motion since Margaret's last attempt to control my life. Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from Michael. "Just heard from Mom. Hope you're okay with the room situation. Amanda really needs our support right now." I stared at the message, a wave of disappointment washing over me, quickly replaced by determination. Michael had always tried to keep the peace, but this time he had made the wrong choice. "It's fine," I typed back. "Everything is exactly where it needs to be." Setting my phone aside, I reached for a folder inside my safe, my fingers grazing over the documents within. The house deed, insurance papers, and the one document that would change everything. 3 days, I whispered under my breath. Just 3 days. Upstairs, Amanda's laughter rang out as she continued rearranging the furniture. Let them enjoy their little victory for now. In 3 days, they would realize just how big of a mistake they had made. The next morning, I woke up on a couch in the living room, my back stiff from the uncomfortable position. Loud music blasted from upstairs. Amanda's music. As I sat up, a sharp pain in my stomach reminded me that I was supposed to be resting. Instead, I was here, exiled from my own bedroom while Amanda made herself at home. Margaret strolled in, dressed in one of her elegant outfits, her expression as smug as ever. "Oh, good, you're awake. Amanda needs to use the shower, so you'll have to wait." I checked my phone. 7:15 a.m., 2 days and 16 hours left. "Actually," I said, pushing myself up slowly, I have an appointment this morning. Margaret's brows knit together. An appointment? Shouldn't you be resting? It's just a quick meeting with my lawyer. Nothing too exhausting. I kept my tone casual, but I didn't miss a flicker of something in her eyes. Was that fear? She masked it quickly. A lawyer? What for? I shrugged as I gathered my things. Just updating some documents after my hospital stay. Routine stuff. Margaret shifted uncomfortably. Does Michael know about this? I turned back to face her, offering a small smile. He will. At the law office. At the firm, my friend Patricia Chun was already waiting. We had known each other since college, and she was well aware of Margaret's controlling nature. Everything's ready, Patricia said, sliding a folder across the desk. Are you sure? Once these are filed, there's no undoing it. I flipped through the pages, my resolve only strengthening. They took over my bedroom while I was in the hospital. Patty, if I don't put a stop to this now, they'll push me out completely. And Michael? He refuses to stand up to them. I sighed, shaking my head. He thinks if he ignores a problem, it'll go away. But this time, he's wrong. Patricia nodded. All right, I'll file these today. They'll be notified in about 48 hours. Perfect. When I got home, Amanda was sprawled across my couch, surrounded by expensive shopping bags. She barely glanced up from her phone. Mom said you went to see a lawyer, she remarked, feigning disinterest, though I could hear the curiosity in her voice. Just some routine paperwork, I replied smoothly, heading straight to my office. I needed to check if Phase 2 was ready. You know, Amanda called after me. Mom thinks you're up to something, but whatever it is, it won't work. This is our house now. I paused at my office door, turning slightly. Our house, she smirked. Yeah, Mom says Michael is the only one with a real career, so technically everything belongs to him, and we're his real family. I thought about the documents Patricia was filing, the plan I had put into motion months ago. Interesting, I mused, before stepping inside and shutting the door behind me. That evening, Michael finally came home. He found me in my office, focused on my laptop. Hey, he greeted hesitantly. Mom said you want to see a lawyer. I looked up at him, really looked at him. The man I had been married to for 5 years, the man who had never once stood up to his mother, the man who had let his sister take over our bedroom without a second thought. Yes, I said simply. Michael ran a hand through his hair, clearly uneasy. Look, I know the situation with the bedroom isn't ideal, but it's only temporary. Amanda's going through a tough time. I cut him off. When I was in the hospital, did you know what they were planning? Michael's silence was all the answer I needed. Right? I muttered, turning my attention back to my laptop. You should know, things are about to change. His posture stiffened. What does that mean? He asked, his voice laced with unease. I glanced at the clock. In 36 hours, your mother and sister are going to learn some valuable lessons about property ownership and legal rights. He let out a forced laugh. Come on, you're overreacting. Mom's just helping Amanda get back on her feet. I shut my laptop and rose to my feet, feeling the familiar tug of my stitches. No, Michael, your mother is trying to push me out, and you're letting her. I took a slow step forward. But what none of you realized is that I've been keeping track. Every time they move my things, every manipulative comment, every attempt to erase me from my own home, I locked eyes with him. And in 36 hours, all of it will matter. His face paled. What are you saying? I leaned against my desk, arms crossed. I'm saying you might want to tell them to start packing, because once those documents are delivered, everything changes. He scoffed, but his voice wavered. You're bluffing. I pulled open a drawer and retrieved a thick envelope, setting it on the desk in front of him. Remember last year when your mom tried to sell my grandmother's antiques while we were on vacation? I tapped the envelope. That's when I started preparing. This is everything: photos, videos, legal paperwork. In 36 hours, it all becomes public record. Michael's eyes flickered between me and the envelope. For the first time, I saw real fear in them. What did you do? He whispered. I sat back down, calm and in control. I protected myself because you wouldn't. Just as Patricia promised, the documents arrived exactly on time. I was in my office when I heard Margaret's voice ring through the house, shrill with fury. What is this? What have you done? I walked into the living room where she stood, trembling, gripping the papers in her hands. Amanda hovered nearby, looking pale. Michael sat on the couch, his head in his hands. Oh, good, I said smoothly. You got the notice. Margaret's hand shook. This says that you own the house. I met her wide-eyed stare and nodded. That's right. Amanda gasped. That's impossible. This is Michael's house. No, it's not, I corrected. Last year, when Margaret tried to sell my grandmother's antiques, I realized I needed to protect myself. So I bought Michael's share of the house. He signed the paperwork himself. Michael lifted his head, his face drained of color. The refinancing papers? The ones you said were just updating our mortgage. I smiled. Exactly. You signed over your portion of the house to me. It's all legal. Even your mother signed as a witness. Margaret visibly recoiled. I never signed anything. Check page 3, I said, tilting my head. See that signature under witness? That's yours. Remember those HOA documents I brought home? You signed them in a hurry without reading the fine print. A thick silence filled the room. For the first time, they grasped the depth of their mistake. I folded my arms. The second set of papers details every instance where you've damaged my property, including taking over my bedroom. Amanda's expression twisted in panic. You can't kick us out. We're family. Actually, I can, I replied coolly. And I am. I glanced at my watch. You have 24 hours to vacate. Anything left behind will be thrown out. Margaret turned to Michael in desperation. Are you just going to let her do this to us? Michael remained motionless, his gaze unfocused. He was finally processing everything. You planned this, he murmured. No, I corrected. I prepared. That's different. I let out a breath. I had hoped it wouldn't come to this, but when your mother and sister took over our bedroom while I was in the hospital, they crossed a line. Margaret scoffed. We were trying to help. I arched a brow. No, you were trying to erase me, and you've been trying since the day I married Michael. But I'm not someone you can push out of my own home. I pulled my phone from my pocket. The police are on speed dial. You can leave voluntarily, or they can remove you in 24 hours. Your choice. Amanda burst into tears and fled upstairs. Margaret remained rooted in place, clutching the paper so tightly her knuckles turned white. This isn't over, she hissed. I met her gaze unwavering. It is, and if you ever step onto my property without permission again, I'll press charges. I have years of evidence. Margaret's expression twisted with rage, but she had no move left to play. After they left, Michael and I sat in silence. I'll pack my things too, he said finally. Probably for the best, I replied. The divorce papers are in that pile. Patricia will contact your lawyer. He exhaled sharply, half in disbelief, half in reluctant admiration. You really planned for everything. I had to, I said simply. Because you weren't going to protect me, so I protected myself. That night, I lay in my bed finally at peace. The awful pink wallpaper was already peeling, revealing the sage green paint beneath. Tomorrow, I'd start putting everything back the way it should be. My phone buzzed. A message from Patricia. Papers filed. You're officially free. A slow smile spread across my face. Margaret and Amanda had thought they could take everything from me. Their biggest mistake? Underestimating me. The next morning, sunlight poured into my room. The house was blissfully quiet. I walked over to my vanity and pulled open a stuck drawer, the one they had complained about. Inside were the very documents that had sealed their fate. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's being smart, protecting yourself, knowing when to walk away. As I tore down the last strip of hideous wallpaper, I let out a satisfied sigh. They had celebrated too soon, but I would celebrate the right way, by rebuilding my life exactly how I wanted.